I was just going to allow for a few more minutes of QA. Since you're all sitting down, what sort of questions do we have for our three speakers? Richard?
So this is a question for Dilith. My job means that I have to understand writing systems from all around the world. I have to admit I'm rather embarrassed that I don't know much about Welsh, which is right next door to me. So the first question is, do you have problems with keyboards, or is that a solved issue? And the second question is, the coding clubs, that sounds like a fantastic idea. How did that come about?
A UK, a Welsh UK keyboard. It's very easy to change in Windows. Okay. And yeah, so that's not a problem. What is a problem with orthography is that we have digraphs in Welsh, which is double letters. There are things like double D, which is the sound, and the double L, which is the sound which no other European language has, but they're treated often as letters, as two single letters. And you find things like, you know, the hyphen will come in between them and messes up your justification and so on. But lots of those problems have been resolved now. And your second question was about the coding clubs. Well, it came about at an UK level, really, when the whole, all 4 UK nations were chastised for having such an abysmal record in teaching coding to children in the school education, and all the school systems looked at how to improve that. And it's only now beginning to feed through into the schools, but it's been identified as a way of improving Welsh language skills as well. And it's happening both within the school system, it's beginning to come through into the curriculum, but also as an outside school activity, that you have the IRF, which is the Welsh youth movement, are moving into the area. And we're looking at activities other than swimming or sports or singing and dancing, something else that kids like to do. And of course, kids nowadays like to code. So it's just starting off, but we hope that it has a lot of future.
I had a question to Dennis. You, in your title already said that it's an end-to-end task you have to fulfill. And I remember you also already reached out to stakeholders you need to involve in this task in the Multilingual Web Workshop in Rome a few years ago. Start to talk to people in the IT ecosystem, so to say. My question is, if you make a kind of intermediate review, where will you say, have you been successful in involving the right stakeholders? I'm not talking about company names, but rather, let's say, part of the IT ecosystem, where you say, here the people are already on board. And maybe a related question then, organization-wise, I mean, maybe in terms of governmental or non-governmental institutions, where you say, here I see open doors, here I see there's still a need to embrace your endeavor.
I'm fairly new to the position and exposed to domain names in general. But when I came on board at VeriSign, that was almost 3 years ago, and my former boss was explaining to me all this about domain names and international domain names, and it clicked to me, and I felt related and sensitive about the issue. My face will maybe not give up my real nationality, but I'm from Peru, y hablo español muy bien. And I make my way to the US, just following a job opportunity, and there I go. I'm of descent of Chinese and Japanese. So I grew up exposed to learning these languages. And of course, when internet came about, everything was in English. And I would say, why cannot type in Spanish, right? Why can I type the ñ in domain names and that stuff? But going back to the question, I've made some progress. It's not yet. It's all about meeting the right people. This is an ecosystem, right? Registries alone cannot solve the problem. Software applications alone cannot solve the problem. Policymakers cannot alone solve the problem. So it's making the right connections, having those conversations, keeping the conversation alive, trying to find resources and funding in order to make these projects to happen. And that's what I have found in the last months, a group of energized people looking to solve this problem. And that's what Universal Acceptance ICANN is all about. I'm one of the co-leads of the Internationalization Project Group. So, like I said, I'm recruiting, and I want every volunteer that I can get in order to voice the customers' issues, voice the users' issues, because I know users want this, but they're just, it's like going to a shop and you get a bad experience. What do you do? Some of you maybe will talk to the manager and provide feedback, but most of you, I bet, just walk away and don't come back. So that's what's happened. So it's about keeping the conversation alive, trying to channel those frustrations to the right people.
It's just a follow-on comment to what Dennis was saying, that also I think part of the hope is that we can unblock some of this by major corporations taking steps. And so we've seen Google already. You can't actually, as I understand it yet, use Google IDNs. They will accept them, but you can't create them for your own email address. But hopefully that will come fairly soon. And Google there has started the ball rolling. We're hoping that Microsoft will do the same thing. And then we really start to get a bit of momentum, and then people like Facebook and all the other organizations that need to accept these will stand up and pay a bit more attention. So there's an additional sort of vicious circle within the vicious circle there that we're trying to get remedies. So, yeah, it's also a question of those large companies coming on board.
Sounds like a very good challenge for Microsoft and for other companies. Another question? If not, I would have one question for Delth. I noticed on one of your slides you talked about your project structure and the fact that you were installing Moses engines on ordinary PCs, which, I mean, usually it's not, you need sophisticated equipment and stuff like that. If you've got something really good, have you approached other lesser resourced language groups, or have they approached you for some of the help in that? Sounds like you have a very useful package that could be used beyond Welsh.
Technical people, really. I don't know the answer to that. I know that they've done some pretty innovative and groundbreaking work. Just that because you work in a minority language doesn't mean that your coders are any worse than any others. And we're very lucky in the ones we have. So I would be surprised that they have. I know they have cracked some basic problems with Festival, which is why I was talking about the way that people in Africa and India come to us to help them, because, yeah, we've done some cool things there.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for ping pong, but I have a question to Thibault. Looks like you have really great multilingual data sets related to cultural heritage. I mean, one part of cultural heritage. And of course, in cultural heritage, it's a challenge how to make user-fed, how to make a bridge to commercial applications. Who would be user-fed and commercial applications? I also know that from the Freem project that I presented earlier, that there are companies who are interested in that. For example, people who are in the hospitality travel domain, so who are translating content in that domain, are interested to say, okay, can I enrich that content? Let's say I translate something about Paris, can enrich that with information of cultural artifacts which are in that region available. Have you looked into such deployment of your resources? Or is that something you would be interested to pursue?
Are you meaning that the possibility to use the vocabulary, the translated database for other uses, commercial uses? We've made the software, the website is available as a free license, so you can hopefully use it freely. It's equivalent of a LGPL license on GitHub, so you can use it. The links are also available, and they are published on the website we use, which is data.culture in France, which lets users download the vocabularies, thesaurus, and the Joconde thesaurus is available, so you can use it. And it's a very good way to translate works of arts in the field of culture. You have many things, and the links were validated, so it's very useful. But I didn't have time to talk about that, but the validation was sometimes difficult. For example, if you get a keyword like, in French it's Latin, which is an old period of history, about 1,000 years before Christ. In English it means 10, I don't know the word in English. Latin, okay, it's Latin in English also. And in our corpus, we had the Latin inferior, superior, and middle. So we had 3 periods. And in Wikipedia, it's only 1. So it was, difficult to match. Do we match superior 10 to Latin normal, or no? So many choices were made by specialists and experts. So I think it's a very good, useful vocabulary for other uses.
Questions here for our panel? So then let me say thank you, Delph. Thank you, Thibault. Thank you, Dennis.